Sagittarius, welcome to your 2019 astrological overview. It's Raina, your fellow Sagittarian, so I am definitely interested in some of this information myself. I want to remind you that this is not only for the Sun in Sagittarius, but for the rising sign as well, but also that this is a general forecast. This cannot be specific to your natal chart or your solar chart. So you can only get that information by bringing it up yourself, and if you know how to read your chart, you can figure out where everything is going to fall in your chart, or you can get a reading from me, and I am offering a sale on my natal chart interpretations through the end of 2018, so you can check the link below if you're interested in that. So what I would say overall for 2019, and one more thing that I want to add here, is that I'm not going into all the minutia of each month and all the stuff that's happening, all the transits for them, because I do that every month and I don't want to kind of like overlap. And plus it would be probably an hour and a half long video if I did that. What I'm going to do is talk about some of the longer transits that are planets hanging out in one house for the whole year or for months, or the eclipses. I will bring up those as well. And the north and south nodes, because that's going to be a year and a half. So if I had to characterize 2019 in a nutshell in terms of the influences, I would say that money is really front and center. And I say this because the second house of earned income and the eighth house of shared resources, other people's money, we call it, are activated this year. And when I say activated, I should kind of clarify. I'm specifically talking about eclipses in these houses, in Cancer and Capricorn, okay? And I will get into that in a second, but we also have a whole bunch of planets hanging out in that second house. And this has been a long-term thing in the case of Pluto. I will get into that when the time is right, but I just wanted to give an overview about those two houses. And I'd also say that we have Jupiter in our sign until December of 2019. So that has to be looked at as a major trend for Sagittarius as well. So let's talk about that first and foremost. What does that mean for Sagittarius? I think it means a lot. I think it means that for the sun signs, we are ruled by Jupiter in terms of our essence as beings in this lifetime. Now, obviously, we live many lifetimes, or at least I believe we do, and we are going to be different sun signs. So it's not that our souls are Sagittarius, although I'd like to believe that's the case. But in this lifetime, the sun is what we aspire to be, ultimately. And so this is one of the reasons that's given such great precedence overall in what it is that we see ourselves as, you know. So it's our core self in a worldly sense, I guess you would call it, but it can be what we aspire to be spiritually as well, along with the North Node, I think is a big factor in the urges of our soul in this lifetime. But in addition to that, I think that when we think of having Jupiter in the sign that it rules, and then that being our sun sign, I have to believe that that is also very lucky as well. So anything that relates to your life in general, this is a whole new cycle for you in terms, I mean, especially if this is your rising sign, but even as a sun sign, the solar chart, then that's going to be the first house as well. And that sense of things maybe falling into place. But again, we have to bring ourselves to life. It's not about life coming to us. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I read comments under other astrology videos on YouTube by Sagittarians saying, oh gosh, I can't wait for this to happen. It's been so terrible for the last 2, 5, 10 years. And what I would say is, no, there's something going on personally with you, and you're blaming transits for it. I don't believe that somebody is suffering for years on end because of transits. I think that even with the best of transits, that kind of an individual is going to experience a lot of delays, because Jupiter comes into our sign every 12 years. I mean, unlike Saturn, which is every 30 years, this is more frequent. And if you think back 12 or 13 years ago, where were you? What were you doing? Did you have this like charmed life, or did you have struggles then? Maybe now it will be different because you have matured, and maybe you have learned more about your spiritual nature. But if you're continuously looking outside of yourself for some kind of transit to save you, some kind of person to save you, I'm afraid that you will continue to experience the same thing. We use astrology not as a crutch, but as inspiration, as maybe a bit of a guidepost, but never as a substitute for our own inspired action that we take. And in the case of 2019, if you can say, this is my year, I'm going to make this my year because Sagittarius is in my sign, and you have certain things that you plan to do in 2019 to usher in an amazing year, then that's awesome, because I think you will see results, and maybe like your results will be amplified compared to doing the same thing in another year. However, if you are going to rest on your laurels and sit back and wait for things to drop in your lap, I think that might be a mistake. So again, bring yourself to life at all times and take inspiration from the transits. And believe that this is going to be a lucky year for you. I mean, that certainly can't hurt, as long as you don't decide to not take action because of it. So we begin the year with a solar eclipse in Capricorn, 15 degrees to be exact, on January 5th, okay? In that second house of earned income, which is so important to us in 2019. Now, this solar eclipse, very powerful new moon, is important because it's starting the year off with a bang, with a very clear message from the universe that new things are afoot. And the typical new moon, we would say, plant seeds of intention and things like that. With the solar eclipse, I look at it as waves of things coming to you, opportunities coming to you when it comes to making money that you don't necessarily have to work so hard for. But again, never rest on your laurels. Always be forward moving and forward looking and striving. But this may be one of those times where you won't have to work so hard, where things will just lock into place. And in the area of the money that you earn. So isn't that wonderful? There may be new opportunities afoot for you to earn maybe multiple income streams. And that's awesome, because the more the merrier, right? So that you're never like putting all your eggs into one basket in terms of the money that you make. And what's nice about this too is that the very next day, on the 6th, we have Uranus turning direct in Aries, which is your 5th house of creativity, love, and things like that, and the business that you own, okay? So what I like about this 1-2 punch here is that if you own your own business, you may have noticed in the last however many months, I can't remember when Uranus went retrograde. It is an outer planet, but it is important about the house that it's affecting you in. It may have been that your business has been a bit erratic, and maybe you haven't felt that it has been as steady flowing as it has normally. Understand that Uranus direct is not also the case of being steady, but retrograde, it's even more the case. Now, why is this influence anything but a negative? One thing that Uranus does to influence the particular house is that it causes you to think outside of the box. So if you have kind of a mindset that you do things as you've always done them, now we're talking specifically here about your love life and your business, then, and creativity too. I mean, this can lead to a very original sense of vision artistically. But in terms of, this is innovative, this influence. So this is really wonderful for especially your creative sensibilities and your business endeavors, because you may come up with like a very unique, and I think that's supposedly an incorrect way of putting things, because something can't be very unique, it's just unique. But something that is unique, an idea comes to you that's ingenious. And by the way, Uranus rules Aquarius, which is a sign of the inventor. So you may come up with this idea for your business that people have not seemed to have come up with, and that can help you to earn more money, the 2nd house, which is so influential this year. So there's something with Uranus that can really impact you in a good way. But I think when it goes direct, it's going to be even better. And when that happens on the 6th, then all of the planets are direct. So total green light through, I believe, early March when we have a Mercury retrograde. So, and I think I think the Mercury retrograde, even though it's when the sun is in Pisces, I think it will be in Aries. I don't know that for sure. It doesn't really matter because I'm not getting into that. But in any case, especially after the first week in January, we are going to feel this sense of everything is progressing the way we want it, unlike 2018 where it's like stop, start, stop, start. But it all started with that solar eclipse in January. But I want to get back to January because there's going to be a lunar eclipse on the 21st of January in the 9th house at 0 degrees of Leo, a fellow fire sign. So that can be very helpful for people who are maybe trying to graduate from a university, because that's the 9th house, is higher education. And that can be something where maybe you were trying and trying really hard, and finally you were able to do it. And it's almost like effortless, because again, lunar eclipses are powerful full moons, and this can bring endings that are coming from outside of you, outside of your efforts sometimes. And so there could be abrupt endings sometimes where, with 9th house, it could be something that you end a trip unexpectedly. It could be that the eclipse, the lunar eclipse or the full moon that this is, could bring about an immense revelation of a spiritual nature that really inspires you. So it could be a very powerful influence spiritually for Sagittarians as well. On March 6th, Uranus goes back into Taurus, and this is the 6th house of work. For those people who work outside of the home, particularly, this can be a time of perhaps a lot of fluctuations in work. Maybe you are working in a very different way. Perhaps you're doing what is called telecommuting, where you use a computer. And I'm talking about people who work in an office. Maybe you have flex time, or you have worked it out with your boss that you can spend most of your time at home. You know, Uranus is about nonconformity and freedom and electronics. And so this could be something that is very appealing to Sagittarians who don't work for themselves, because you may feel like for the first time in your work life, you're able to feel that sense of freedom because you're working from home. And I've read articles about people who work from home, you know, kind of complaining that it isn't so great, that they feel the sense of isolation and they don't have this schedule. They feel kind of, I don't know, murky because they kind of have to define their own hours. And of course, if you're not really gifted in being very organized, it can kind of, the hours can slip away from you, perhaps. But I see it as a plus for Sagittarians if you work for somebody else. I don't see it as a negative. I think that Sagittarians would welcome this with open arms. Unless you have a lot of Capricorn, that is. Maybe that would be, you'd want that more structured life. And even having that like office space where you can kind of feel like an executive or something. But the other thing too is that for all of us, we could feel this sense, because the 6th house is health, that we are getting involved in something that is quite unconventional in the way of health healing matters. Maybe it is using energy healing of some sort, and whether somebody is applying it to you or you're applying it to yourself. So we're talking about Reiki. We could be talking about some kind of shamanic healing, but we could also be talking about EFT, which is tapping, emotional freedom technique, and you can do that on yourself. We're talking about anything that is not what is in the mainstream, because that's what Uranus loves, to be outside of, being a nonconformist, even with health matters, perhaps. And what else? And just innovation in terms of your daily schedule. Maybe you're the kind of person who feels like you have to follow what other people do if you work from home. So you have to start at 9 o'clock, or you feel like you have to, follow the rhythms of the mainstream. And you decide to kind of buck the system, and maybe you decide to start your workday at 4 in the morning. I'm saying this specifically for myself because I had a couple of nights recently where I went to bed. Well, one night I went to bed at 8 at night and woke up at 4 in the morning. And the other night I went to bed at a later time, but woke up at 4 and stayed awake all day, didn't go back to sleep. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, wow, because when you wake up so early, if you're actually in the mode for like getting straight to work in some capacity, I think you could be very effective because the rest of the world hasn't woken up. And I think that there are a lot of people who get up very early specifically for this purpose. So it could be like you do something unconventional with the way that you arrange your schedule. And maybe you even go into a certain line of work that's associated with energy healing and or some kind of unusual profession. You know, Uranus would be anything that is maybe even astrology. Certainly, Sagittarians have this prophetic nature to begin with, but this Uranian influence is directly related to astrology and any kind of any of the intuitive arts. So Uranus is going into Taurus, and I think we can safely say that it's not going to be in that fifth house anymore. One more thing about Uranus in the fifth house until March 6th is that look for any kind of relationship with somebody who is unconventional people, maybe meeting the love of your life in a very random sort of way. At least it appears on the surface that it's random when you least expect it. So if you're looking for love, you still have this Uranian influence. Maybe you meet an Aquarius, but if it's just that Uranus influence, that could be something that is a pleasant surprise that comes your way between, well, as I record this in late November until March. In the summer, at least in the northern hemisphere, I should say, in early July 2nd to be exact, we have a solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Cancer, and this is that 8th house, and this is a new beginning, could be a rebirth. The 8th house is ruled by the rulers of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto in the Tarot is connected to the Judgment card, which is a card of rebirth. So whatever that means to you, Sagittarius, maybe you're going through a lot of changes, and this is something that may be speaking to you in a particular area of your life, but this can be like an extreme makeover in a sense. And it doesn't mean that on that date, but it might be kind of like the critical mass where you really feel like you're turning a corner in your life in some way. And it feels like you're regenerating yourself. This could be also with some sort of resources that you didn't earn. So whether it's an inheritance or whether it's divorce settlement or some kind of gift, financial gift to you or anything along those lines, maybe even a loan depending on your circumstances, you may feel like this is allowing you to reinvent yourself, I would call it, even. And then later in the month, on the 16th of July, we have a lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Capricorn, so a powerful full moon. This is in that second house, and I'm going to be talking about this second house because of the Pluto and Saturn and South Node there. And so this can be some kind of, I think, even a windfall in a sense. Even though it's not the house of receiving outside gifts, I would kind of suspend that because in my own experience, I have experienced receiving money when that second house was activated with a major transit. And I was gifted with money that I did not earn, obviously, if it's gifted. And so in some cases, there may be like this major release of income. This could be, I think this is especially with people who are choosing to retire. And so this is a major break from a certain paycheck, a steady paycheck maybe. First of all, I do not believe in negative thinking. Okay. And it's not, some people say, give it to me straight and, losing one's job. So you're losing a source of income. I don't believe that, again, with the eclipses, if something is taken out of your reality and you firmly believe in things happening for a reason, then you're not going to feel like a victim and there's going to be less of a fear attached to it. So I'm not going to even go there because that naturally generates negative feelings within people because it feels like it's out of your control. I think that's why people dislike being fired or losing their job, being laid off, if you want to look at it like that, because it feels like it's happening to them. A lot of times when you look at some of the things that happened to you that felt like your life was not under your control, you may see that the universe was conspiring on your behalf. The eclipses do bring about change. There's no question about that. However, I've experienced eclipses where I cannot trace any actual event that seemed to occur that was significant. So who knows if these eclipses will significantly impact you in the way that I describe. One thing that I do want to talk about are these other planets that are hanging out in that second house, because I think that they really do set the stage for the focus in 2019 to be about money, because we have Saturn having been transiting in the second house for the last year. And, almost year as I record this, since December of 2017. We have Pluto in the second house since January of 2008. And, of course, this is where individual charts come in, because it's not going to have been the case for everybody in the same sense of the word. But Pluto is a transformation agent. And I can say, without a doubt, in my own case, since January of 2008, based upon events that have occurred to me in the past almost 11 years, that my attitude towards money has changed dramatically. And I want to state for the better, okay? And have there been any tests in the last 11 years monetarily? Absolutely. But I have risen to the occasion. And it wasn't even because I was conscious of this. Because 11 years ago, even though I had studied astrology for so many years, I wasn't into predictive astrology. So I didn't know that Pluto was in my solar second house. But the transformation has been profound in terms of empowerment, self-empowerment, because you know what? Pluto is all about power. And people get hyper-focused on, oh my God, about Pluto being that, tear down agent where it destroys everything in order to build it up. Actually, Pluto should be the Tower card, I think sometimes. I think Mars is connected to the Tower card in the Tarot, not Pluto. Pluto's connected to the Judgment card. But I think of the Tower, totally. And the point being that when you are not afraid of something, you triumph over it. And with money, money is something that just generates a lot of fear in people, even people who have a lot of it. That's the irony, is that it really has nothing to do with how much you have of it. You can be afraid and have a lot of money and be afraid to spend it, be afraid of losing it. And in the second house, it's about earning money. Do you feel that you have the ability to earn money and to empower yourself and to not necessarily be dependent if that has been part of your pattern in this lifetime? Okay? And dependency can come in different forms. But learning about the laws of manifestation. And it's not like I'm saying this as somebody who is, on this high horse whatsoever. We can believe in the law of attraction and really just be earning enough to get by. Because when you think about it, how much do we need? And this is part of that problem, is that there are plenty of people in this world who are wealthy beyond all measure, and they still are obsessed with wealth. They want more, and they have, and they can't even spend it all. So how much is enough to live on, to feel okay, to feel wealthy, to feel like, your needs are taken care of? This is all wrapped up in Pluto being in that second house. Because, by the way, Pluto is not only the money that you earn, it's also your possessions. And some people, they feel like they can never have enough things. And then you have that movement of minimalism, where people feel wealthy and they have very few things because they feel like they're spacious. There's spaciousness in their life. Before, they felt clutter and they felt like closed in and claustrophobic. So it has nothing to do with the dollar amount in your bank account, if you even have a bank account, or how many things you have, or how many things you don't have. It's all within you. And the second house is your self-esteem. And this is another important thing. It's all tied into that as well, because it's self-worth. So value, how they say, what is your net worth? What is your self-worth? Do you feel like you love yourself and respect yourself? And how does that tie into, what if you work for yourself, the prices that you set for your services, how much you're willing to work for if you work for somebody else, and your spending habits. Do you buy things because you think you can buy your self-esteem? All of this stuff is very fascinating and connected with that second house. The other interesting thing that's happening is that the south node is in the second house, because the north node is transiting now in the sign of Cancer. So it's in the 8th house. The north node in the 8th house means that events may occur, and this is connected to those eclipses. As I said, we have a solar eclipse on July 2nd at 10 degrees of Cancer in that 8th house. So kind of like important things coming in that connect with maybe being gifted money, money coming from sources other than earning it to you, and that possibly changing your life in some important way, but destiny connected to this. Now, for some people, this can be uncomfortable because the north node is at 8th house, and that's the direction you're supposed to be going towards, but the south node is in the second house, and this is karmic in nature. And I want to add, too, that Pluto is karmic. Saturn is the lord of karma. So it's not like those planets are not also karmic influences. But the South Node is going to be a quicker transit. And this may be a karmic test. Can you receive something that you didn't earn? How do you feel about receiving gifts? Maybe you need to be able to do that, and it's hard for you. I think Sagittarians might be capable of receiving money, but I know that that wasn't always the case with me. So being willing to accept a gift, accept something coming to you with a gracious attitude and not feeling like, I don't know if I deserve this, I didn't earn this, knowing that you did earn this. You may not know how or why or when, what karmic connection to this windfall that is coming to you, but just thank, the source and accept it with open arms. Okay, I think I'm going to end it here. I hope that you enjoyed this, Sagittarius, and many blessings for you in 2019. Take care. Bye.